All right. Next up is Lance Leipold down in Kansas. So Lance Leipold is somewhat similar to Kyle Whittingham in this, except that Kansas is in a better spot as a program than Utah right now. So Lance Leipold came from Buffalo, where he was very good and immediately made Kansas relevant. Immediately. They had offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki. He led the first few years in that when Kansas's offense was electric. They were putting up points and yards all over the place. Kotelnicki went to Penn State, and they replaced him last year. Kansas struggled to start last season. They really struggled to start last season, but by the time October came around, Kansas was, well out of the conference title race. They were really just fighting for a bowl game, essentially the last month and a half of the season, 2 months of the season. And as Iowa State found out, and as many other teams found out, Kansas was white hot in, late October and in November. Nobody wanted a piece of Kansas. Arizona State did not want a piece of Kansas. Nobody wanted to play Kansas. They were one of the best teams in college football the last month and a half of the year. Now, the question is, can they do that for an entire season? Is Jalen Daniels going to be the quarterback that people kind of thought he was thought he could be? I mean, granted, we're going into his fifth or sixth year at Kansas now. What Jalen Daniel, the thought has always been like, well, if Jalen Daniels can stay healthy, then he can do this and this and this. Last year, he stayed healthy. He was inconsistent at times, and at times he was very, very good. Kansas also lost Devin Neal, the all-time leading rusher in school history. They lost a few different receivers, Luke Grimm, Jared Casey at tight end. They lost a lot of playmakers. The offensive scheme is still there. The veteran quarterback is still there. He's still athletic and can still sling the ball around. Does Kansas have the juice to replace all of that they lost? And where they were one of the oldest teams in the conference last year, one of the oldest teams in college football. They were very experienced. And now they lost a lot of that experience, and they're going to be a lot younger this year. Can Kansas, put together that 8, 9, 10 win football season that we thought they were going to do last year? Can they do that? I don't know. But Lance Leipold, being able to turn that program around from what it was, I think is remarkable. Kansas was horrible. But even that first year Leipold, where the record was not very good, there was life in the Kansas football program. Gosh, he's an easy B tier. As an Iowa State fan, I'm a little bit biased. So I kind of want to put him in the A tier because he's kind of had Iowa State's number a little bit. Their offense was basically designed in a lab to beat Iowa State's defense. The start to last year scared me a little bit. I think if they had been good last year, like as good, 8, 9, 10 wins good last year, I think this is a very solid A tier. The beginning of last year scares me a little bit. I think I'm going to put him at A tier. Because the other question here too with Lance Leipold is how long he's going to be at Kansas. He's an older, he's a little bit older. I'm going to look that up here, but I know he's a little bit on the older side. He is 1964, so he's 61 years old. He's even a few years older than Chris Kleiman is, so you got to wonder how long Lance Leipold is going to continue to be there. I mean, it seems like he's got energy, but we also saw like some stuff from last year about how his wife was tweeting or something like that about how he was, she was sick of, not getting support from the fans and all this. But Kansas has a brand new football stadium this year, and it's entirely because of Lance Leipold. I'm gonna put him in A tier just because of where Kansas was as a football program when he took over. It's pretty remarkable how quickly he's made them good and competitive. So I'm gonna stick Lance Leipold in there, but I think Kenny Dillingham is more likely to stay in A tier than Leipold. Maybe I don't know. I think Leipold is probably a safer A tier than Dillingham on the just purely on the basis that we've seen Kansas be really competitive and dangerous for a few years now. And they were just coming in just horrible. Now, granted, Kenny Dillingham did not take over a good situation in Arizona State with what Herm Edwards left him, but I'm going to put them both in A tier. But I think they're both potentially, potentially have downward movement there just based on what they do this coming year. Next up is Matt Campbell. I understand that this is Iowa State. This is the Iowa State channel at the Voice of College Football Network. We are proud of that. However, and I know I have bias, and I've never been shy about my bias towards Iowa State. However, Matt Campbell is one of the easiest A tiers in this, maybe even ahead of Chris Kleiman. The program he took over was a complete and total mess. He's going into his 10th season now. Is easily he is the winningest college football, winningest coach in Iowa State football history. He is easily the best. He's easily the best coach in college football history, the most important one. He's put together the most successful teams. He's been to the Big 12 title game twice. Hopefully, maybe we can get there this year and finally win one. He's given Iowa State by far the most national relevance it's ever had. He's beaten every team in the conference, before, in the old conference when he had Oklahoma and Texas and all that, he'd beaten every single team in the conference, which had never been done at Iowa State. He has, inspired young coaches. Kenny Dillingham has modeled his approach as a coach after Matt Campbell. And, there's a reason Matt Campbell continuously year after year fields offers from college and NFL programs, college programs, NFL franchises. This is one of the easiest possible A tiers, right alongside Chris Kleiman. I think this is a very easy A tier. He is not leaving this A tier anytime soon. He'd have to have multiple consecutive seasons under 4 wins type of thing, like to even be considered a falling out of this A tier. And I don't think anybody could possibly disagree with that. Some Kansas State fans, I'm sure, would try to find a way to put him in the B tier. But that's just not an honest. I don't think that would be an honest evaluation of Matt Campbell as coach. He's an easy A tier. Very easy. All right. Next up is Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. So as I teased a little bit at the beginning of this episode, if you're just looking at resume and legacy in the Big 12, Mike Gundy is the easiest A tier. He is by far the easiest A tier on this list. No question. Oklahoma State over the last couple decades is one of the winningest programs in college football. They are consistently a dangerous program that even when they are bad, they're still competitive. And there's been times where we thought they were going to be bad, and then they just turn around and they put together a great season like they did in Spencer Sanders last season there. Mike Gundy is a great coach. He is a very good football coach. However, the question now with Mike Gundy is, what does he do for Oklahoma State going forward? I mean, once he's done at Oklahoma State, he's done. Like maybe he'll go coach high school football someplace and just tear up the Oklahoma high school leagues or something. But at the college level, once he's done at Oklahoma State, he's done. And he's pushing 60 years old now. The "I'm a man, I'm 40" speech was a long, long time ago. We know that he has had some off the field stuff. He's had different comments. He's a very old school guy. He's talked about driving drunk and stuff like this. I don't think he's gotten a DUI or anything like that. But he said, he's been wearing, he's an interesting guy. I think everybody respects his ability to coach a football team. But a lot of times he says things he shouldn't say. He's slow to make coordinator changes when they need to be made. He's slow. He's just generally kind of a slow to change guy. He has not adapted super well to the NIL era. Granted, Oklahoma State as an NIL school isn't as strong as maybe you might think they are, given how their success on the football team, their success on the football field the last couple of decades. I know that a lot of Oklahoma State fans would be just fine. He's earned the right to stay at Oklahoma State as long as he wants, but I think a lot of Oklahoma State fans are ready for him to retire and they want to just move on to the next era. But you know, for that reason, I think that drags him down to a B tier, but absolutely cannot be any lower than a B tier. Just can't be. He's just he's just his resume is too impressive to not to have anything lower than that. And frankly, if someone wanted to come in and make an argument for him as an A tier just based on his resume, I got no problem with that. Like he's probably the one I could probably like most easily be convinced to throw him in an A tier. But I just think there's a lot of kind of baggage that comes along with Mike Gundy that gives me hesitation to put him up there. All right, next up we have Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia. This is, I believe, the only. Well, actually, there's one of two new coaches in the conference. This is now obviously the second Rich Rodriguez era at West Virginia. He left West Virginia after 2007, so he has not been there for a very long time. You know, he left to go to Michigan, which is a bad stint there. Went to Arizona. I think he had a couple good years there, but then for the most part wasn't awesome. And he's kind of been bouncing around a little bit. And now West Virginia has brought him back, which I know bringing Rich Rodriguez back has kind of reinvigorated the West Virginia fan base that had become very fatigued of the Neil Brown era, which is good. You know, getting that